Hey, everybody, and welcome to Juggling Balls You Can't Drop. I am so excited. My name is Kevin Eikenberry. I'm going to introduce my guests, my co-hosts here in a couple of minutes. But I want to give you a little background about why we're doing this event. I work with leaders and teams around the world and have for a long time been helping teams who are remote and leaders who are remote do that more successfully. And I lead a remote team myself, if you don't know that. And I became very clear to me about 2.5 weeks ago that there's a whole nother dynamic outside of working remotely that we need to think about and we need to talk about. And in part because 5 of my team members have this situation. They are parents, they are employees, they are teachers, and they are in many cases spouses. All of these things, we're juggling all these balls, wearing all these hats, and it's hard. And for my team members who are dealing with that, they already knew how to work remotely. And we know that many of you are trying to figure out the working remotely and do all this other stuff at the same time. So about 10 days ago or so, I reached out to my friend below here, Bryon Ernest, who I will introduce in a second. I said, hey, man, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think? Is there a need here? He goes, there's a need. I said, who should I have on to talk about something like that? And he said, well, me. Well, he didn't say it quite that way. He said, well, me. And I got this other great person. I'm going to introduce both of them to you in just a second. But let me tell you about what we want to accomplish tonight. We're doing this without a net. I do have balls I can juggle for you and maybe a little bit later, but we're doing this without a net. I do have some other folks here that are going to help us, but I want to tell you what our goals are. Our goals for this are, well, there's about 5 goals that we have. Number 1, the first goal that we have for this is we want this to be a conversation. Obviously, Katty and Bryon and I are going to do some chatting, but we really are here to create a conversation. And mostly what we want to do for all of you that are in this tough spot is we want to lift you up. We want to support you and to lift you up because you're doing something that's important and something that is hard. We want to salute you. And so we wanted to create this opportunity to create not just a conversation, but a community of folks who are all dealing with the same situation. And we recognize how hard it is. And so we're hoping that in some small way, we can help you in this process. And together we're stronger. And so my intent was to create something to do that. And I don't think there's any doubt that together we're stronger. And I'm hoping that this will be a way to lift you up and to get you engaged in what we're going to do for the next little bit. The second thing is some context for this. The first thing is a lot of times you go to a webinar or you go to something like this and they have experts who are supposed to have the answers. Guess what? We don't have all the answers. We got some questions. We've got some things. We've done some planning. We have some expertise, but we do not have all the answers. As many of the answers as can be had will come from you and not just from us. We also know that you're all coming from different places. You have different ages of children. Bryon has a college freshman. Katty has a one not yet in school and one who is 8 years old. 2nd grade, 3rd grade?
2nd grade, yeah.
2nd grader. I've got one who's a junior in college. She didn't ask me anything. So the point is, all of us are in different spots. Some of you have kids in all of those ranges, and all of those situations are different, and we know that. Some of you have e-learning that you're supporting, and some of you don't. Some of you are doing this single, and some of you have spouses. And some of you have spouses that are also home, driving you crazy all day. We're trying to do all the same stuff. And others of you have spouses who are leaving. Maybe they're on the front lines doing this work. All of us are in different places, and we know all of that. So I want to just share with you, when we created this, we decided to call it Juggling Balls You Can't Drop. Bryon wanted to call it spinning plates because apparently he has a spinning plate skill. But I have another metaphor we're going to use throughout the night, and I'm going to go to just me for a second. So you can see that behind me, I have hats. And so throughout the night, I may put on one of these hats when we're talking about us with our employee hat on or us with our teacher hat on or whatever. So a little bit of something to for you to all make fun of Kevin with and to be sort of, I don't know, something kind of fun, perhaps. So we're all wearing a bunch of hats, okay? I am going to be occasionally looking at my other monitor because I'm going to be sort of keeping track of where we're at and what we're doing. And so let me do some introductions now. I'm going to have to go to my screen to do that. Let me introduce first the most attractive member of this panel. Well, the only one who's even halfway attractive in this panel. Her name is Katty Pacheco. She is an educator with over 10 years of experience. Wave, Katty. There she is. With over 10 years of experience in early childhood and elementary education. She's worked in both traditional settings as well as in dual language immersion schools. She was named Teacher of the Year in 2018 for the Renaissance Charter School in Boggy Creek in Kissimmee, Florida, where she lives. She was born and raised in Puerto Rico. She's married to her high school sweetheart, Angel, who is imagining is right now taking care of the two girls. Andrea, who is 8, and Lola, who is 2. Yes. She teaches 2nd grade, and she follows a project-based learning approach. And so I don't know if that'll come up, but I wanted people to know a little bit about Katty. Yeah. Katty is the person that Bryon said, this is who, Kevin, you need to have on. And now let me introduce Bryon Ernest. Bryon and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I'm honored that he's joining us. Dr. Bryon Ernest does professional development in leadership and education around the world as the Director of Educator Development for Noble Education Initiative. He serves on the Indiana State Board of Education. He is the chair-elect of the National Association of School Boards of Education. He's a former National Agri-Science Teacher of the Year and the Indiana Teacher of the Year. He has served in he has a student. He's now in college, but he's got all of these roles. He's been a teacher. He's been a principal. He's been a superintendent. He's doing all these other things. He brings a broad experience for us. He's also written a great book. And Bryon, I tried to find it this afternoon. I couldn't, so I could show it. But he wrote a book called The Hand in the Back of the Room, Connecting Schoolwork to Real Life. So hopefully what you realize is that we don't have answers, but we have hopefully we can direct this conversation as we go. So you know a little bit about me. I'll say a little bit more about me. I lead a team here at the Kevin Eichenberry Group. I work to help leaders and teams be more effective. We work with folks around the world, and I'm honored to lead a remote team of folks, 12 folks, 2 of which are here. You can't see them, but they are here. And Marlene and Marissa are both here, and they are going to be monitoring a couple of the locations to make sure that I get all of the information coming in terms of comments and questions. And the most important participant in all of this is you, because your role in this is to tell us the answers that we don't have, or give us better answers, or ask us questions, or provide us comments. Encouragement is welcome. Hearts and thumbs up and all that's welcome, of course. But really what we want is for you to engage in this. And we want you to be a part of it, helping to guide this in the direction that we want it to go. Okay. A little bit of a framework. When the 3 of us chatted about this, we came up with a bunch of A words that we think words that start with the letter A, and I happen to like alliteration, so we stuck with it. A bunch of things that I think will be a bit of the framework for our conversation. Well, mostly we will talk about the different hats that we wear, and we'll probably talk the most about the parent and teacher hats. We're going to talk about, during the course of this time, we're going to talk about acknowledgement and acceptance, activities, awareness, asking, some really great stuff there, maybe some advice, some action steps as well. And so I am super excited. So Katty, anything that I didn't say about you that people ought to know before we dive in? Anything at all?
Not really. That I'm tired but happy.
All right.
That's awesome. A good, so kind of like kick it off.
All right. And I will be doing this as I have to look at these screens and see other stuff. So the vanity is out the window. Bryon, you put yours on, so I don't feel quite so bad. Anything you want to say, Bryon, before we get going?
No, just a pleasure to be here and just know that we certainly feel for what everybody's going through. While we can't know what every person's situation is, and sometimes it's hard to put. So at one point, Kevin, I want to see you put all the hats on, because there are people that have to do it all, right? And so.
Hey. Don't give away the ending. All right.
I'm sorry. darn it, you didn't let me spin my plates like I wanted to, and I thought I was really getting good at it, and so now,
like, we just need to get you on Ed Sullivan. That's what we need to do. Let's get you on Ed Sullivan.
I'm thinking James Corden. I can do a great, rendition.
All right. Well, I put the teacher hat on first because I think that's probably where we'll spend the most time. That's actually what got me thinking about this to start with. We're going to talk a little bit about the hats, probably less about the spouse hat, unless you all tell us that you want us to talk about that. But Bryon, in some of the stuff that we shared before we started, you talked a little bit about accepting, and you shared some ideas with me I thought were really useful, I think, for us as parents and teachers right now. Tell us what you're thinking and what your advice would be to us all around accepting.
I think for me, if I could start real quick, and you mentioned my son, and I think for me, when this all got drove home was 3 weeks ago when my son goes to Murray State. He's a freshman at Murray State, as Kevin said, in animal science. And we had to go down and help him move home. And it became very real to me. I talk a lot about mental impact of things that happen. And the mental impact became real in that my son broke down. You can tell I still get a little teary-eyed. He broke down when we were moving, and he was saying goodbye to his friends that he'd made. And he really got shorted on his first year of college, right? A thing that a lot of us really value and enjoyed that experience. So that became very real to me. So this idea of accepting, we have to accept that now we're our students' most consistent teachers. And right now you're in-person teachers at least. And right now you're their only in-person teacher. So for example, literally my wife and son are in the dining room doing an ag math class, and she's helping him with that right now. Right. So there might be a girly friend or somebody that would have been helping him there, but that's very real. But I think we have to accept that. And I think we have to remember as parents that particularly with kids that are in a K-8 environment, we have to remember to differentiate just like your teachers would. Students who tend to be independent are going to thrive in this unstructured environment. And then we also have to think about that the kids that don't, and we know every kid's different, right? And we know that we're going to have to differentiate the ones that can handle unstructured, let them rock and roll. The ones that need that structure, we've got to give that to them. And that's something that I think parents need to even find ways to partner with their teacher to learn how to form that partnership. So I think that accepting part is the first piece to that, right? Our kids still deserve to continue to learn right now. I personally do not buy into the idea of we just let everything go. I think there are things we can do. Is it going to look different? Absolutely it is. And it should. But I think we just need to accept this is our normal right now.
Everybody will say, well, people shouldn't be in denial about X, Y, or Z. And what Bryon's saying is the opposite of that. You may be saying, man, this is really hard. I don't know how to, someone should really we can't live in the world of being a victim right now. We've got to live in the world of accepting it and getting ready to move on. So Katty, I think I want to go to you as the teacher in the room. Before I go to Katty, though, I want to just say this to all of you who are watching, especially if you're joining us now. I know that not everyone came at the same time. I want you to know that this is all for you. So if you have comments, you agree or disagree with what we're saying, put them in the comments. If you've got a question about something, you want us to say more about something, put it in the comments. Please don't just be sitting back. Don't do what your kids might do, which is just be passive. Like, be active in this. Like, this is a chance for us all to learn. So Katty, I think I'd like you to be the voice of the teacher for a second, and recognizing that we're not all in the same place, right? Sure. Recognizing you teach 2nd grade and not 10th grade and all of that. What do you want us to know as parents? As the teacher, be the voice of the teacher for us. Sure. To say, what can we best be doing? What do you want us to know? And I'm going to put on the parent hat for a second. So go ahead and take us from there for a minute, would you?
So yeah, sure. I mean, two words that came to my mind when you were talking about the A's, I thought about awareness. To me, awareness is very important from a teacher perspective and a parent perspective. Okay, so I think we need to be aware of everyone's situation, and that's why I try always to be a teacher that builds relationships with my students and families, so that way they know I'm here, and I know maybe some particular situations they might be going through, especially now during these times, and that allows me to be aware, you know. And the other A that came to my mind right away was active, but like I thought of it as active communication. I think communication plays a big role right now. Like if I have had parents that maybe I have talked to them twice, three times, you know, in the year, and now I've been talking to them every day because it is needed. It is needed. Like we need to communicate. Parents are asking me for advices. How do I do this with him? How do I do this with her? Do you have any idea? And I'm very happy. I'm very happy to support and know that that active communication is there. Every time I put something in place, like in my lesson plans and stuff, and I am in those meetings, luckily I'm one of those teachers that get to see the students face to face through the screen every day. And that makes me happy. And I know the parents are there, you know, at least I teach second grade. The students are at an age that they need to be at home with someone, of course. And sometimes they might be with their parents. Sometimes they might be with a grandmother, with an aunt, with a relative, right? Because parents have to go out and work during this situation. But I think that communication and me as a teacher knowing what they're going through, reach out to the teacher. If you were the parent, reach out to the teacher, let them know what you're going through. As a teacher, if you have not heard from a student, or if you notice something like, you know, in their emotions and stuff, I will say go dig a little bit deeper, communicate with them. Like I am a teacher that believes a lot in social emotional learning, and that's why when I start my meetings every morning, I go right there. Why? Because I don't know. As parents, I'm a mom, and sometimes I struggle. Yes, sometimes I have really bad mornings that are difficult because of the routines and the logistics of everything getting ready. And sometimes I forget to ask my daughter, how do you feel today? How are you this morning? What are you thinking about this distance learning? You know, I forget sometimes. And then as a teacher, I'm like, oh my God, maybe my students are going through that too. So I make sure that I maybe include like a little poll in the morning that they answer. How are they feeling today? I check on that. Or how do you feel about distance learning? Which to my surprise, I had that poll this Monday.
Yeah, could you share that? That was great. You shared that with me.
Yeah. Honestly, the one that said that they're feeling good about it won. And to me it was like, oh my gosh, it was really a surprise because I know they're overwhelmed. I know the kids are getting overwhelmed by all of these. It had not been easy for anybody. But I think if we communicate, actively communicate as a parent, as a teacher, they know that we care. You know, they know that we are here. They have that confidence, no matter the age, because now communication is not, you know, the age doesn't really matter. At any age, you can sit down, you can talk to your children, you can evaluate how are they feeling about it, open that door so they know that you are there, you are reachable. And then if it's something that you feel you cannot, then reach out to the teacher, reach out to someone that you know, a relative that you know that that person is really good at math, then give them a call, you know, like just let them know that you are there, you're present as a parent, and communicate.
The reason that I put on the leader hat is that's, you know, Katty just said something that's super important for all of us. And I've been telling leaders this for 4 weeks. And that is that, and the way I've been framing it is, don't go right to the work, right? Start with something. How are people doing? How are they feeling? What's going on? Do a check-in first. That needs to come before we get to the work. It's exactly what Katty said. And I think we all need to be doing it. You know, as parents, I can't change these hats fast enough for all this, but as parents, and when we're in that role, we need to recognize, and here's the thing, as adults, we're saying, man, this is all hard. You know, we're trying to deal with all the stressors of how we feel about the virus itself and all the other stuff. And we think, well, maybe our kids don't feel that, but our kids do feel all that because they know it's all different. Talking to a friend sent me a note the other day about something. And I said, how are the puppies? They have 2 new puppies. And he says, well, we're trying to keep them in the same routine because they're not used to us being home all day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the puppies are noticing it. The kids are noticing it. We've got to do those check-ins, that pulse check. That is so, so very important. So Bryon, you're working with leaders, with school leaders and educators and and folks literally around the world. You run a webinar today with people from 27 countries. And so what are you hearing in terms of what would you add to what Katty's saying in terms of be the voice of the teacher or the educator to all of us for a second?
I think so. Where my mind actually went during that, and I thought that was so great, Katty, and I'm so proud that you're on here with me. I made the right decision for you, Kevin. And
Well, I know
your viewers are saying that too.
See, it's right there.
Yes, and so where I went with that is really to a P word. And I went back to what I said earlier under advice and the partnership piece. And I want to say a couple of things here. One, as school leaders, I believe, and I'm not everyone necessarily believes the way that I do, but I think we have to let our teachers do their thing. We cannot script for them right now in this. We have got to let them be creative. You're listening to a very creative teacher that I've now worked with enough on webinars and things to know that she's really got this, right? She's helping her students be leaders. I heard her say one time on a webinar, hey, I want my kids to lead their parents through this, right? Well, that's good stuff. But in all cases, we don't have that. So the parent needs to become a partner with the teachers. And I just want to tell the parents, it is okay for you also to offer advice to your teachers.
Sure.
And for you to also throw ideas in. And I want to give you an example. For the 5th grade, there was a person that chatted a question about how do I get a 5th grader to complete their assignments. I've seen a couple of things that have really worked when we've been discussing this, and that is the parent to, if you have the time, and this again, and I get this, right, that sometimes it's hard for parents to have time. If you can make a project out of it with anything in the house, like paper plates. I've seen some cool paper plate things be done with very creative, but also don't be afraid to ask your teacher, could you make a project out of that for me? Because it's very hard to get my child just to sit down in the house to do that. Could you help me make a project for that and differentiate? And I've actually seen this happen, and I've actually seen some pretty good projects come out of that. So I think that two-way communication is great. And then let me tell you one other story, Kevin, that was a great story today that happened. I was working with some teachers yesterday, and I had a teacher really bummed about that today was supposed to be her SeaWorld trip. And I said, well, are you still doing it? And she's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, I guarantee you there are people standing around SeaWorld that still have to work and do things because there's animals there that don't have a lot to do because there's no people there, right? So she ended up knowing a parent. I actually talked to her a little bit ago to get the details. She actually knew a parent that helped her. They're going to do the tour. They couldn't do the tour virtually yesterday, but they had a person that actually talked to the kids and worked through the kids from SeaWorld about some of the happenings going on there that they would have never gotten anyway. And they're still going to get the SeaWorld tour later. So my point really to all of that is we need to get super creative, just be creative and really form a partnership. I think that's part of accepting it, right? That we can be partners in this together and open those communication lines up. When you're struggling, if you're struggling, let the teacher know you're struggling, because I guarantee you there's no teacher that wants you to be struggling.
Mm.
So I want to say a couple things here. Number one is that we did have, all of us can see some of the questions here, which is great. And so Byron mentioned it, so I put it up. So as you send us questions and comments, we're going to try to put them up here. Sometimes I may hold them until I think it's a better time. So I just want to say a little bit more though about this question, if we can, right now. So all of you, please keep sending them in. And I'll just try to keep, I'm trying to be the producer here, right? So like I'll slide a little thing in here now and then. So I just want to say something else about this, and you guys please weigh in as well. One of the members of my team, Adrian, shared a note shared an article with me from Gretchen Rubin, who's a really, really smart woman who's focused on happiness. And she talked about the idea, and everyone has different models for this, different ideas about how not all of our kids are the same. They don't all take in information the same way, whether you want to call it communication styles or whatever you want to call it, right? So you may have a model, that's fine. And so she was saying, think about how you communicate with your kids about their work, their assignments based on their communication style, which is really brilliant. And that's one of the things that we're going to share a link to you with later. And I'll put that up in a second. But to this particular question, what struck me was, yes, we're the parent and we ought to know our kids, but we may not know how they operate in this school environment. One of the things I'd encourage Liliana to do is to ask the teacher, like, what clues do you have for me about how I might communicate this kind of stuff in this context with my kid? I see you shaking your head, Katty. It must not be too far off.
No, I just would like to add to it. When I saw it, I was like, you know what? It came to my mind the fact, like I always tell my students, I am a coach, rather than an instructor. I like to act like a coach where they have the confidence to teach me many times during the day. They figure something out, they come and they teach me. Sometimes I pretend I don't know. Sometimes I really did not know. And in this particular question, to me, I think in flexibility, we have to find a way. And I say, mother, I have applied that with my daughter. I have to be flexible and try my best not to let all my stress, dump it on her and be like, no, you have to have this done by 5 o'clock, because if not, I have to negotiate. I have to find a way to be flexible, understand, and have a goal, have a goal. And who knows, maybe some reinforcement, like something that they like to do. Like, for example, my daughter loves movies, and that's the deal. You finish this before this time. We're going to watch the movie that you want to watch tomorrow, whenever we can set that up. But I think we need to motivate them and try our best. I know it's hard as parents because we want to, of course, keep the structure and all of that, but we need to kind of like be flexible with them. And again, going back to what you were saying about knowing the children, I know my students. I know who likes music. I know who likes to draw. I know who likes to read. So when you get to know your students, you have maybe those tools that parents are lacking of. Like you said, open the door, ask teachers. I mean, what is an activity? For example, right now we're working, Byron, you know about this. There was a student in one of our webinars that she proposed. I believe a lot in having children propose what they would like to learn about. So this student reached out to me and she said, Pacheco, I love PBL, project-based learning. I love the one we did on habitats. Why don't we go ahead and do one in the solar system and learn about more about the planets? Oh, that's perfect. And now during this distance learning, guess what? I shaped it up. They have it. Now they're going to be presenting it tomorrow. Some students wrote a poem about the planet. Some students are doing a dance about the planet that they're investigating about, doing research on. I have another students that have created a fiction story about a planet. So, I mean, there are options out there, and we need to know what really they thrive with and what they will be really motivated towards. So that way we can check that activity, that lesson. We can go over the same standards. We can check if they mastered or did not master the skill, but in a fun way and in a more accepted way, like they're going to accept it better.
By the way, so we get a little back up. For all of you that weren't here at the very beginning, Katty's talking about second graders. All that stuff she just said, second graders. So if you were already impressed, now you're like.
And Kevin, can I add? Yeah. I have to add to brag on her a little more, because of what you said. I literally had her second graders and her did half of a webinar, and the second graders, and I used high school students this week. The second graders did better than the high school students. Part of that's because of the teacher, right? And I have to say that, but these students were amazing. Student agency, student choice is so important. And I would encourage parents to ask your kids how they want to do something too. I think that's an important piece to that.
Yeah, I want to come back to that a little bit later. But I wanted to make another comment because a close friend of mine shared some things with me on Facebook a few days ago, and she may be here. I won't call her out. If she is, she'll know that I'm talking about her. And she said, you know, our teachers need to try to get things so that everything's due at the same time, and we have some things that can really help us as parents. And I could hear her anxiety in that moment, and I would just say, that's another thing. Go to the teachers and say, hey, because the teachers are learning on the fly too. Yeah. Right. So as a parent, don't go in judgment. Don't go in, listen, come on, but go in a sense of us. We're in this together. And so here's some things that would really help me. And it may just be something the teacher hadn't thought of, and maybe they can modify, and maybe they won't. Right. But here's the thing that won't happen. It ain't going to change unless you talk about it. And if you don't give them any feedback, there's no shot that it's going to change. Right. So we're going to shift gears here in a second, but I put across the bottom here, for those of you that are here, a link, and it's KevinEichenberry.com/juggling. And the reason that link is there is that as a result of this event, we're going to create a document, a resource tool for all of you. And I'm hoping that some of the things that show up in here will be in that tool. It's not finished. It probably won't be finished until Monday. It's going to have some resources to help you in the various hats that you're wearing. And we completely free. Just give us your email address and you can join us and get that next week. I hope that you'll do that. KevinEichenberry.com/juggling. And comments are starting to come in. So I need to go back to that. Let me put this up. I haven't even read it yet. So let's see what it says. What should teachers do if parents cannot or will not get children motivated to do schoolwork at home? I'm going to hand it to my experts. What do you guys think?
What should teachers do if parents cannot, will not? At least something that had worked for me as a teacher, I think it's what has worked for me is the way I present it to the parents, like the way I deliver that message. For example, my parents at the beginning, as everyone, we were so overwhelmed with the transition. For us was really quick, was right during spring break, and we didn't have any chance to prepare. Like, we just jumped right in. So it was really overwhelming. And me as a teacher, I thought another A, anticipated. So sometimes you have to anticipate. And as a teacher, you have to anticipate, right? As a parent, I think in every role. And I anticipated, I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna create like that sense of uncertainty that we all have is going to make it bigger. You know, we are going to be like really stressed about. I knew the times that were coming, so I tried to anticipate. And what I did, for example, in my case, something that worked for me was to prepare a template for my lesson plan. I actually changed the format of my lesson plan completely. I created this template that I then shared with my colleagues. The one in my grade level, then the school-wide, other people actually adopted it. I created this simple, user-friendly template with my lesson plan where they can track day by day what activities are, meant to be done in a simple way, like I would say parent language, like, because my students, believe me, I will give them that paper, they will go with it and they will do it because they are working with some of the apps and stuff that we manage in the classroom. But I knew for parents was going to be a little bit tougher. So I went ahead and created that template, simple template. I told them, if you have a printer, you can go ahead and print it out, put it on your refrigerator. If you don't, you can just take a screenshot with your phone and then have it available. And that way you just have it in hand. So the way I presented it to them was like this magnificent tool that I have prepared to make your life easier. Because I know I'm a parent, I have a second grader as well. So I know, they know that I'm going through the same with my daughter. So I have to, show that empathy. And the way I presented to them, they thought it was amazing. They were like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so easy. The same parents that at the beginning were sending me emails like so overwhelmed and stuff. I was like, no worries. I'm working on something that is going to make your life easier. Believe me. And you know what? When I met with my students the first days, like I explained like expectations of our meetings, all of that stuff, I presented it to them first rather than the parents. I actually showed shared my screen, show my students. I was like, you see this day here, you're going to follow along the day. It's going to be highlighted what you have to do. Where is it going to be available? That's it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. They accepted it. They're working with it. It's just an idea, of something that we can maybe work out to make their lives simpler and easier.
Cool. So we have a question that's come in from another venue that I can't put on the screen easily. So I'm just going to read it. And it actually is from this friend of mine that I thought might be here, she said, okay, I love all this creativity, but what about those of us with teachers who are less flexible and we ourselves have no time, in her case, both parents working from home, right, have no time ourselves to engage our kids. In other words, any help there? I'm going to hand that to you, Byron. You happen to know this person as well.
You know what, we do see that a lot, and again, I think with that, I'll go back to, first off, the partner piece. You know, make sure that the teacher understands that as well. I'm going to guess, and I'm guessing, I think I know who this person is too. So I'm going to say in that person probably has, but I think that's one of the first pieces to that. And then, because again, back to what Katty said that I think is important is there something that teacher or teachers, because I don't know the grade level, so it may be multiple teachers, but is there something that those teachers know that gets the child motivated to do that and is able to get that work? And then the other thing to possibly suggest, and a couple of things that I've seen work. So I'm just giving some tips and tricks here at this point that I've seen, is I've seen some teachers have some great success in the same situation. And there was another person that typed something in as well with needing this, is to see if you can partner another student to work with. Do that in partners, okay? And some schools are able to do that with their learning platform. Some will let them do Zoom to get that part can get figured out. And then the other part is to begin to have some daily check-ins. And I've really seen, I suggested this, and now I've had some teachers like doing it, and it's like become this thing where they're literally having lunch with their students just like they might at school, right? And so I think, while some of that you might think, gosh, she's dodging the question, I'm not really. I think, to me, it's bringing it back to, what's it look like at school, right? You know, school's not a place anymore right now. So therefore, we've got to figure out, how do we think about what would be happening at school with those students, and I think as many things as we can do, pairing them up with a buddy, finding a way to, that may be lunch, that may be, I attended a lunch with a 5th grade set of students, all mics on, greatest thing ever, right? And they literally did start talking about school things and what was going on at home and what have you. So I think it becomes, to me, it's almost, how do you socialize? How do you go back to socializing school to help the kids out that are in that situation?
And we have to recognize, as we said when we started, like, we don't have all the answers, and some stuff is hard. No, and that, Christy asked a hard question. I put my employee hat on because members of my team would say, well, that whole lunch thing, well, we did it, and we have done it. And I've been telling organizations to do it. So I'm going to put my employee hat on and say, you know what? When you were at the office and you had coffee with someone every once in a while, you can still do it. Fire up your webcams and just chat for 10 minutes. That might be the thing you need the most right now. And maybe you talk about work and maybe you don't. When we had our last virtual lunch, wasn't our first one, but we had our last one, I said the rule is no work talk. Yeah. And so we didn't talk about work. I had a little activity plan so we could have a little fun and laugh, but for the most part, we ate. And because we're across the country, some people were having breakfast and some people were having lunch. But, you know, I think here's a point that in my book, The Long Distance Leader, that I wrote with Wayne Turmel, we had 18 rules for remote leadership. And the first rule was this: leadership first, location second. And here's what I would say to everybody here. There's a whole lot of routines that we had before that we can tweak and use now. The school lunch is one. For you as a parent and as an employee, the coffee break or the happy hour is another. So, like, be thinking about what worked before, and rather than lamenting that it can't work now exactly, what's the kernel in it? What's the principle in it that we can tweak and use now. I loved. I knew that you had that one about the lunch in your pocket, Byron. I think that's really, really great. We're getting lots of questions. So let me see if I can put another one up. And again, I haven't really read these. So here we go. My son is in the 6th grade and on the autism spectrum, which makes it harder for me to ask him to do a task without watching and guiding him along the way. I am work from home. Do you have any advice? You guys have any thoughts about that? Again, we don't have the answers, but we're certainly here to support and lift you up here. And if any of the rest, before you guys answer, if any of the rest of you have thoughts about any of these things, put them in. We'll throw them up here. If you have a child on the autism spectrum and you found something that helps, please share it. But either of you want to tackle this one?
I was going to let Katty go if she wants to go.
I mean, I don't have the experience, of course. I don't have the experience working with the autism spectrum as much as I would have liked to. At least in our school, we have the resource, we have the personnel to work with students like this, and they're actually doing the Zoom meetings that we're doing, but they're doing it in small group with the ESC, students, and they get the support there. And also something that I am doing with these parents is I'm trying to be, again, flexible. And I have students that, for example, cannot join my meeting for as long as I am with the rest of the class. So I've been flexible with them. They can just get in, participate in our meeting, my SEL check, and then they're good to go. And I know these are students that are in and out the meeting. And I accept it, because I know, what they're going through. And then what I do is on a separate end, I share the resources, like if we watch a video, then I'll be like, hey, this is the video that we watched today. I actually posted in our main communication tool. I post it there so that way they can refer back to it. If I know the child is struggling, through the lesson, paying attention, focusing, I know that you as a parent might find the best time of the day, even if it's before going to bed. I don't know, it doesn't matter at this point, but you find the right time for the child when he's ready or she is ready to then go over the videos and watch. I will say, I don't know exactly what particular situation the person is going through. I don't know if it's e-learning or if it's doing it all on its own, but if it's e-learning, I will say reach out to the teacher and, ask for that flexibility, maybe sharing with you the resources that they just used during the day. Like if she was with the students, maybe she can share the resources with you. Plus now, considering all the educational websites that are offering free membership for the rest of the year, that's a great tool. Like some of these students, they're really engaged and attracted by, when things are more like digital and stuff. So I would say, let's take advantage of that. And maybe teachers know. And if they don't know, honestly, teachers don't know. You just have to Google it. Something that had been working for me, funny, believe me or not, I would be typing for websites, and then I type COVID at the end. For free COVID, and then I type the website. And believe it or not, it's working. Like all of these resources are popping up. And I'm like, as a parent, I can just click. I don't need an account as a teacher or anything. I can just access them. So I would say reach out to the teacher. Maybe if you are going through e-learning, then definitely she can maybe share those resources, the links of the videos that they watch, or maybe a link to the story that they went over. And then you find the time to do it at home at a better time where the child is ready for that. And if not, if you're on your own, then go ahead and check those resources that are out there free with lessons. Like some of them are have the lessons, and then they have the practices for whatever skill and standard. So I have a couple of them that I can share with you, definitely in a few.
Send that link. And that's one of the things that we'll put in the tool that we're going to share with you. If you go to kevinikenbray.com/juggling and get yourself on that list. I have a follow-up from our friend that asked the earlier question. And this is a great question. And here it is. It says, do the education experts, which means I'm out. Do the education experts think our kids' learning time should fill the school day? Byron?
No, I don't think it probably will. And again, that's probably going to depend on the kid, right? Like I've seen situations now where we've got students that are probably going to come out of this farther ahead next fall, hopefully when we go back to school, than they are right now. I also know that we're going to have third graders that really probably aren't ready to be fourth graders. So we're going to have people all over the place. But so my answer is no, because I think we have, and I believe in flexible learning anyway, right? I'm a competency based guy all the way. So to me, time is kind of out there, but I think the thing that, and I want to take this a little bit back to the earlier question with the question with a parent of the child with autism, is that the other thing I've learned is, don't change. I would encourage parents, particularly the ones that are work from home, that have those jobs that you are literally working. And I would kind of be in this situation. I haven't been away from this computer pretty much all day today, right? But don't change your schedule, your work schedule, change the school schedule. And as Katty said, that's a thing where you have to work out. We may be doing this in the evening. We may be doing it early morning. We may be doing it at some different, we may be doing it at a break in the day. So I would say no, that those hours don't, and I'd say most schools are really working with that. Some of the best models that I think I've seen so far have gone to an every other day. The school and the teacher are doing some synchronous things with the students, let's say on Monday, and then it's asynchronous on Tuesday, and then back to synchronous on Wednesday. So I think that's something that parents could learn from that as well. How do you work that out?
Okay. So Beth is sharing some things, and that's really excellent, right? We've got a comment that came in elsewhere as well that says, for some students, you may find that you can shift things around. So maybe 30 minutes of dedicated study time or focused action time, and then 30 minutes off, right? Even for us as adults, we need to be putting breaks into our work day that often isn't happening anymore now when we're at home. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, how am I going to take a break? But you can at least take a break from your work and go work with your kids for a little bit. I've had some people tell me that and of course, this is going to depend on the age of your kids and a bunch of other things, right? But where we're saying, we're going to set a timer, or we're going to have Alexa tell us the time or whatever. And in whatever it is, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, when the timer goes off, everybody takes a break for 10 minutes, and I can go love on my kids, and I can go check on how they're doing, and I can refocus them if that's what I need to do. And I've gotten a break from my work. And then then we can go back and do it again. Right. So there's something perhaps. Yeah. And so Beth, I see your note. We're going to get to that, your last note, Beth, we're going to get to that in a second. So hopefully that's helpful as well. And there's so much stuff that we could talk about. And again, we're going to provide resources to you all in this tool if you sign up. And you sign up by going here. Otherwise, we're not going to know who you are to get it to you. So if you'll do that, we would really appreciate that, and we'll get some stuff to you. So again, be sharing the resources that you have here. We'll add those to what we're doing as we curate this and put it all together. A couple of practices from my team. As I mentioned earlier, the 5 people on my team that are dealing with all these hats, doing all this. Okay, Byron, you did your plates, so I'm going to juggle. All right, they're all juggling. And so one of the best practices that I heard from one of my team members, and I've done some research and a lot of people are doing it, and it makes total sense. And that is, at the end of every day, we make a schedule for the next day of what everybody has to do. Because the kids are wearing one hat. You're wearing 3, 4, 5, 6 hats, right? And so let's figure out, when do things have to happen? When do we have to be on Zoom with the teacher? When are we going to schedule in the homework? When are the kids going to do their chores? If whatever all that is, when is the TV time? Whatever. And so by engaging the kids in that more, they're finding it to be very helpful. And what it also does is it creates ownership for the kids. And I know that, Byron, you don't think that we're including our kids enough in all of this. You want to comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, you're right. And you would probably, any setting or context that you put me in, I would say that, because I want to include kids in everything. And again, Katty will tell you that when I began to do webinars for teachers, and I think I'm the only one doing this, I have students in them, because our students a lot of times know the answers to the questions if we'll just ask them. And I don't care if they're a second grader or a senior, they really will. And I think we need to, You can ask them, what resources do you like best? How do you want to do this? And they'll tell you. They'll tell you that piece. And anybody I think that's parented gets that, right. That your kids can't. Sometimes we don't like the answers they give us. I get it, right. But we need to be asking them, and we need to be including them in those conversations. You talked about the schedule. The kid needs to be a part of building that schedule, in my opinion. And I love Beth commented that she likes the first then boards. I love first then boards. That's really cool. But the student or
okay, whoa, time out. Not everybody that's here knows what that is. So what is that? You got to tell us.
Well, for me, and Beth's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but what I know of a first then board, what are we going to do first? And then what do we get to do after we've got the first things done? Beth, you correct me if you do it a different way. That's the way because I've always said too, we need to have, and I think this is important. I think this is important. If you're an empty nester with no kids at home, I think you need to have things to look forward to now. Mm-hmm. If you don't, right? Like last night, my son and I cooked dinner. That was our job. I don't cook, but we made a monstrous hamburger, macaroni and cheese, had a blast doing dinner, right? But that was something that I looked forward to all day. And we had and I just think we need to try to not we would do that if we were still going to places, right? We would have things that we would be doing, things that we would be looking forward to. We need to figure out how do we do that? How do we still do that? Yes, it looks different, but we still need to be having that time. Beth has not corrected me, so I must have been right on how I look at first then boards.
All right, Katty, go ahead.
I think I was just gonna add to what Bryon was saying. I think in order to be successful at that, to me, that's something that I have been somehow struggling. I would say just finding that me time that is so necessary because, as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, I also lead a team of teachers in my. So I'm always thinking of everyone else, but I like to think of myself too. So I'm like, where do I find that time? So I think there comes the fact of us setting up boundaries. You know what I mean? That's very important for all of us. And we as parents are always like setting up boundaries with our children. But I think at this point, like, for example, me as a teacher, I'm setting my boundaries up. Like, I'm like, I'm trying my best, and you will see me on my couch enjoying a TV show with my family or watching a movie, and on my phone, a message pops up. Oh, Ms. Pacheco, I cannot get into Edmodo because I don't know why it's telling me that the code is not correct. And you will see me. You will see me like, I want so bad to answer to that parent, and I'm like, should I not? Because you get to that point, and then you have to honor yourself. And I have to be like, what, with all respect, what I do is then the next day I address it, and I tell them openly with respect, like, oh, by the way, I saw your message this morning, and you told me that. Or I would tell them, I'll be like, oh, last night I saw your message. I'm so sorry. I was with my family. I was not able to reply to you right away. But let me tell you, how do you get to do it? So, whatever the situation is, like as a parent, as a teacher, you have to set those boundaries so you kind of like you can jiggle the balls without letting them drop. All are important. All of them are so important. At least for me, all of those balls are really important, and I want to keep them up. But I think if I set up those boundaries, I will be more successful.
I want to share another. So first of all, this comment here that says, the world is different, and we have to grant ourselves some grace. We have to grant our kids some grace. We have to grant our spouses some grace. We have to grant the teachers some grace. And maybe that word doesn't resonate with you like it does for me. But if you don't want to think about granting grace, think about being patient, being kind. Like, we're all figuring this out. And so we gotta recognize that productivity may not look exactly the same. If we're a leader, we need to be recognizing that. We need to be recognizing that we've got team members that are juggling all these balls, and we need to be flexible with them. I've certainly been trying to do that and trying to recognize that as we go. I wanted to share one other idea. I think we could go for a very long time, and I will tell you, everybody, this inside baseball. we didn't say this was going to go from 7 to 8. We don't know how long we're going to go. I didn't even tell them how long we're going to go. I have no idea. I know we're not going to go forever, but we're probably not going to stop in 6 minutes, just so you know. So, but another thing that came from my team, which I think is so amazing, and not everyone is in this situation, I know. One of the members of my team has a second grader, and she needed some help. So I don't remember exactly how it happened. And Adrian, I think you're still here. If you want to add to this or correct me, please do. She had her son on the tablet or whatever, FaceTiming, whatever, with grandpa and reading to him. She didn't have time to read to him. So read to grandpa. So now it's become that every day, the two of them, he's giving him math problems. He's doing. I mean, so the point is that you may have someone else in your family that doesn't have anything to do, is looking for some meaning in all of this. Maybe it's a parent, a grandparent. Maybe it's a aunt or an uncle or a cousin who's been furloughed. You just don't know how that. And I told Adrian, I said, you know what you're doing? You're creating a lifelong memory for your son. Not only, she says, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to be able to get other stuff done and have someone else read to him because I don't have time to read to him. But so that leads me to say, and I know people are doing this, and you've got to follow the protocols in your communities, but maybe you can engage a high school student or a college student. Listen, I got one of those. She ain't busy all day long. And so she's actually trying to get involved in doing some tutoring. But the point is, whether that's virtually or whether that's someone down the street, depending, I'm not telling you what you should do or not do. But man, you can't wear all the hats at once. And so don't be afraid to reach out to someone else that might be able, willing, and it might be a blessing to them to help. So I don't know if you guys want to add, or if you got any stories you want to add to that. I do want us to get in a minute. I'm going to go to where Katty was going, which is about, we got to take care of ourselves too. I'm going to put on a Purdue hat for that. But either of you guys want to add to that commentary?
Kevin, I think one of the things, and I know that you're going to send out some resources, and I know I gave you a link to my own organization who has put together some resources for parents to use. And you brought up reading and just, again, looking for those kinds of things. Audible, I know, last week came out with, they've made a lot of their children's series books for free. You can get those now. So to be read to and if you've ever used Audible, they have some great speakers that are great readers, particularly on kids' book. If you ever haven't listened to kids' books, you should. I still like to listen to Dr. Seuss. But those are some sources that are out there. But I'd also like to, if I might, because I think the comment that you've still got on the board, and I think it relates to what you said right now and I think it's such a great comment. You may no longer be able to monitor and equate a day's work the same. And I think that goes to the earlier question. We're not going to equate a day's education exactly the same either. And I think if we think back to this accepting part that I started with, we have to accept that things are not going to run 100% smoothly. And we also have to accept that we're not going to be our 100% productive selves either. And one of the things that I saw, it actually came out of Harvard like 3 weeks ago, and they did a whole series on that if you are a business leader or a leader of a team or an employer like yourself, Kevin, if your mind is going to, how do I get my people to be the most productive at home and how do I get more productivity out of them, you have probably already messed up as a leader.
Certainly right now. That might not have been true 7 months ago if you sent people remote, but it is now.
Correct. And that's the point, right? Because we weren't necessarily prepared for looking at that, and it's going to look different down the way. So I thought that was just a genius comment that was put up there on that, and I think that's important for us to remember. We're none of us are going to be 100% probably productive in this environment, particularly with kids.
So this comment comes, I love the idea of including kids in designing their learning, but I listened to my 8th grader and a bunch of her classmates go along with what the teacher suggested because they are taught to defer to the teachers. And the result was a nightmare of scheduled Zooms that left no flexibility, caused a whole family bandwidth problem. So, and it comes back to how do we get feedback to the schools and ideas from the kids? And of course, the end of the day, some humans take feedback better than others, right? Some are more open to it than others. And maybe the situation here is that's just not going very well. I would just say this, that the more that we can give feedback, and I would say this always, this happens to be in this context, the more that feedback always has to be heard, understood before it can be accepted. And so we got to make sure that when we share it, that it's not coming across as accusatory or judgmental, but helpful and curious. And again, I think I know this person, so I'm confident that she knows that and is probably trying to do that. But I would say that the opportunity that we need to have here is, again, everyone's in the same boat, and start with that and acknowledge that the teachers are doing the best they can, but here's some things we're learning. And what's happening is people do stuff, and it's the same thing you're saying about leaders, Byron, unintended consequences, right? So teachers don't recognize those unintended consequences of a house with 3 kids and 2 parents all trying to share the same bandwidth and all that other stuff. So I think we just have to I would just say to you as a parent, do the best you can in giving that feedback, but give it in a helpful spirit, and give it in a way and at a time, and don't give it when you're angry. Wait till tomorrow. But we could have a long conversation about that, but that's about what I would add to that.
Yeah, we go back to active communication again. Like, I think honestly, that's the door to go to. Like, you have to communicate, because the same way I've had parents already, because of their particular situation, they cannot, perform maybe the way they would like to, because they have to work or they have to leave the house, or maybe the student is in a divided custody. So the kid sometimes is with dad, sometimes is with mom. And I need to know that as a teacher. I need to know all of that. And then I kind of the same way they communicate that with me, I pass the message, because sometimes you have to understand it's not us teachers. Sometimes that comes from administration, and the same way we are kind of holding students accountable for something, they're holding us accountable for something. So, I need to be the person that kind of gets to know your situation. Maybe I'm the first person for you to go to. And then if it's something that I cannot help with because it's not in my hands, I will try to make sure, to pass the message on to the people that maybe can take those decisions, or at least make them aware of why am I making those changes, with the family. Why am I adjusting my learning, the way I'm teaching to that student? So I think communication is the baseline here. And like you said, we're doing the best we can. Even teachers, we're doing the best we can. And we are also reaching our voice, and we know our students, we know our families. We know how they work, and we know how to kind of challenge them to a point that we are not, I think I don't want to use the word abusing, but I want to be considerate, more than anything right now. My goal as a teacher is for them to know that I have been considerate. We try something. If it doesn't work, we change it. If I plan for a lesson and then, I get one message back or 2 messages hey, Ms. Pacheco, you know what? I'm so sorry. I don't quite understand it, or it's been really hard to follow along. Then I'm you know what? It's not done. Don't worry about it. We're going to find something else where you can go ahead. I even share with them websites that I use as a teacher, where I can find the resources. And I'm you know what? If you find a different activity that goes with the same standard, go ahead. I mean, at this point, we have to be flexible. We have to be considerate.
So I had written something down in my notes that I want to share, and it's kind of been talked about, but I think I want to say a little bit more about it. And then I want to get a little bit at self-care. You see this comment comes up here. And that is that the folks that are here are the folks that are probably already doing a good job. The folks that are here are already juggling these balls. While they may feel overwhelmed and it may feel hard, they're already doing better than many. And so what I would say to you, the thing that I wrote in my notes is the goal perfect? And the goal should not be perfect. Don't make the goal perfect. Make the goal that we're going to try to help our kids keep learning, and we're going to keep loving on our kids. If we could do that, then we're heading in the right direction. So we need to spend a little time on the personal hat. And those of you that know, this P stands for personal, or it stands for Purdue. So
Go Boilers.
Boiler up and boiler up. So actually, before I go there, I'm going to put the comment back up here about if I can find it. And there it is. And put this back up here. If you want the resource, and you can share this with others. People don't have to have been here. And of course, if you're watching us later, this link is going to work. KevinIkenberry.com/juggling. Email. We'll get you the tool that we're going to be creating over the next 2 or 3 days, and we'd love to share it with you. We just need your email so we can get it to you. And so I just wanted to share a few things and talk a little bit about the self-care piece, because we got to, because as Bryon said, you can't wear all the hats at once. It just doesn't work. At some point, they're going to start falling off, right? Like, okay, so they all stayed on. That wasn't what was supposed to happen. But we can't do that. Ain't nobody wearing multiple hats. We can't do it for very long. We have to be clear about which hat we're wearing when, for ourselves and for our kids and for our spouse. Hey, another member of my team said, my boys were shouting at me and angry with me. And she said, do you do that with your teachers? No. Right. And so I can abuse mom apparently, but I can't abuse the teachers. And so we have to help we've said the word boundaries several times, clear expectations about when we're in the various roles. And I'm in, and one of the things I like about this metaphor, and a couple of people have commented that they liked it, is that, hey, I'm parent now. I'm being dad now. I'm not being the teacher. I'm challenged with that. I learned it from my dad, who I worked for on our farm. And then sometimes he was the boss and sometimes he was dad. He was pretty good at it and helped me learn that a little bit. But here's the hat I want us to talk about right now. And that is the hat of if you can't take care of you, if you're not able to be somewhere close to your best, you got no shot to be your best with any of the other hats. Like Oprah said, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And she's exactly right. And so I just have a couple of thoughts for you here. I see some other comments are coming in. We'll get back to those, but let me share a couple of thoughts here. The first thing that you need to do for yourself, everybody, is do all the stuff your mom taught you to do. Eat right. Try to get some sleep. Right. That hamburger stuff sounds pretty good right now, by the way, Bryon. But, do the stuff that wash your hands, right? Eat right. Take a break. Get some exercise. You know these things, right? And maybe exercise for you is yoga, and maybe exercise for you is walking up and down the stairs, and maybe exercise. I don't know what that is, but those things. And you may not be able to do them as much or as long as you did before, but you got to be doing them, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of everybody else. You've got to take breaks for yourself as well as with your family. I have seen a number of things on Facebook that have been really interesting. I saw one, again, someone that I believe is here. I know she's here, where they were challenging each other. Moms were challenging each other to put on, if I get this right, to put on a ball gown or a dress. And someone said, if I get 5 people to show me tonight that they're wearing a gown, I will teach my kids tomorrow in the gown. Now, we got to have some fun. We got to find ways to do that. We've got to find someone. Here's what I shared with leaders a couple of weeks ago. You have to find someone to vent to. And maybe tonight, even though you haven't been able to talk to someone, maybe this was cathartic for you. We hope maybe that it was. You have to find that person, and maybe it's your spouse, and maybe it's not. And maybe it's another mom or another dad that's a coworker that hey, can I put on my parent hat for a minute? I need 5 minutes to vent, right? We need to have that. It can't be with our kids, because that's not fair to them, and it's not even going to be helpful to you anyway, right? You've got to find someone you can vent with, not complain, not be a victim, but let some stuff go so that you can refocus. If we don't do some of that stuff, we got no real shot. And again, here's the thing: we all know what we need to do to take care of ourselves, and many of us have let that go. My wife said that to me in the first 3 weeks of this. Given that we work with remote work and remote leaders, and and given that I was finishing the manuscript for a new book, and given that I was writing this massive proposal, she's like, what about you? Right? She was saying that to me, and I wasn't even wearing as many hats as all of you are wearing. Not near as hard for me as it is for many of you that are here. And she reminded me. So I'm trying to give that reminder to all of you. We got to take care of ourselves too. And it may not look like it did before. You may not be able to take a 3-mile run, but you got to get out of the house and run. And if you need to watch, okay, if Kevin needs to watch Gunsmoke to relax, then he needs to watch 30 minutes of Gunsmoke. And by the way, the early seasons were only 30 minutes. And so like whatever it is, you got to find it. You've got to do it for yourselves.
You have to.
You just got to. And I love, Katty, your comment earlier about, I saw it from the parent, but right now I gotta be mom, and I gotta be wife. And
it's not easy. Like I'm playing all of those roles, like I say right now, like I tell everybody, I've always thought my students are somehow my children, but now I think they truly are, like more than ever, because I have to really be there. And I don't know, like I could be like, like you said, venting with someone, but then once I'm with my students, you know what I mean? Like everything changes, and I am empathetic. I feel sad that I cannot be there with them. And I don't know if you remember the chart that I created. Like, yes, I have this situation, but I always try. Believe me that I try hard. It's not easy. And I feel sad to hear or read that some people are like, it's like, oh, I wish these people were the ones in our schools, and I know not everybody is the same way. Believe me, I'm not near perfect, nowhere. Like I have my moments as a parent or as a teacher, like I do. And like I said, with my daughter, for example, I have to negotiate with her. What works with her is to negotiate. I have to negotiate. I know this is hard. I know this is going to take us 20 minutes, but you know what? After this, we're going to have a popsicle. We're going to have this with my students. With my students, I'm doing the lunch bunch on Fridays, and they're looking forward to it. Like today, I was talking about the project, and one of them just raised their hand. Are we going to have the lunch bunch tomorrow? And I was like, yes, we are. So I know that that's something they're looking forward to. So, with her, I need to negotiate. So don't think that it is, it is nowhere near perfect. I have my struggles. I have talked to my administrators already, like, look, I think this is, this is not working, or we feel this way. I am also listening to my team, like I want them to know that I am struggling too, not because I'm organized and maybe I have my things organized means that I'm okay, because like we have the office hours. Yes, we do. But during those office hours, I am answering messages. I am answering emails. I am preparing lunch. I am changing a diaper. If you know what taking care of a 2-year-old is, and my own, it is a big deal, So it is really hard on me as a person, because I take it so seriously. All of my roles, I take them so seriously that at the end, I don't know how can that end up, affecting me. So I'm learning every day. This is a day by day, believe me, a day by day process. I maybe had a really tough day yesterday. Today, I'm trying my best to kind of like face it positive. And, I'm trying my best. And as a teacher, I would say something that I'm treating myself with is coffee anytime I want. Using the bathroom anytime I need. So, like I get to be with my family.
It's
like
the little things, Katty. It's the
little things, and believe it or not, like I said, those are the ways I look and I feel like, I am treating myself somehow between all the chaos that I'm maybe going through and maybe all of the struggles. Those are the little things, like I call them goodies. A good book, a good movie, a good bath with no children around. I mean, those are the little things that we can definitely consider it to honor ourselves and what we're doing.
I have to share with all of you real quick, and mostly this is for Katty, but Bryon said Katty's the right person, and she was. I'm so glad that you've been here.
Thank you.
But I was so struck by the fact that I'm sending an email to you and say, hey, could you do this? Or, hey, we want to look at this thing. And it wasn't very many, but every time I sent one, I'm like, I just added more work to someone who's doing all the stuff that we're trying to help other people with. So I we're not quite done. And I'll thank you again, but I want to thank you for that, because you got it harder than Byron and I.
But again, I have a PBO mindset. So if it's something that I am really liking and I'm really into it, believe me, I'm gonna get it done. You know what I mean? Like if I really want it, if I really like it, and I'm motivated towards it, I will do it, no matter what it takes.
So we got a question, and again, not for Kevin, for the educational experts. I love this question. Moving on to pass fail. Thoughts on moving to pass fail to take the pressure off teachers and students, and by default parents too. Byron, you know, sitting on a state school board and you probably in a lot of those kinds of conversations. What are your thoughts about that?
I am totally in favor of the pass fail. I'm not, and again, I hope that we come out of all of this and we've learned some things. I think there's some things that we're making some policy decisions right now that, quite frankly, we probably need to keep in place, or have seen some things that we're going to need to change. Let's not go down that road here. But to the question of grades and that, I think that's absolutely the right thing to do here. Because one, it's just going to be hard. We know we've heard it on here, right? Some kids are thriving. Some kids, the parents are having trouble, even the teacher having trouble with them to get that done. It's another thing that we've got to, that we've just got to give some grace on, as you said, right? Or accept that that's going to be that way. So I think that's totally, most all of the universities have gone to that kind of a policy. They're allowing, in many cases, the child to decide, or the student, I shouldn't say child, the student. I think my son has till, I forget the date, that he decide which class he takes pass fail, which ones he doesn't. Well, clearly the ones that are A's, he's keeping grades, and if he's as smart as I think he is, and literally, Kevin, this is where sometimes I think we need to learn from higher education, and I don't say that all the time, but I think we need to learn from higher education on this, that they're letting the student decide, and the professors are actually having meetings with the students to help them decide which way they go on that, right? Like, here's your grade right now. Here's where we think it's going to be. And I think we can learn from that. And so I think that's a great thing when schools do that. I don't get as I'm not as in favor of policies that we're not going to let any student flunk. Because I don't know if a student's not doing anything and not getting anything done, how in the world, where are they going to be next fall when we come back, right? And I think for the students' good, but I think we're also seeing some of our, and I'm sure that's not the people maybe that are on here, but I know we're seeing our equity in education right now. That gap, I know, has widened, given our kids that are able to get access to broadband and all of those kinds of things in this situation. I had teachers in webinars today who were sharing how tough it is right now to work with their Amish families. In that situation, those are real things. And I really am going to make a point here with this, Kevin. I think two things. One, I heard, and I so appreciated the comments. But one of the things was said, how do we get the people to hear this, right? And I would encourage a couple of things. One, I would encourage every person that's on here, and you may do this, Kevin. So if I'm stealing your thunder, I would encourage every single parent that is on here, really every person, send this link to your teachers and your school administrators. We need to make sure that people do realize how real this is, and how real it is, even from an administrator standpoint. You're seeing again, Katty's able to thrive because she has agency and autonomy to be able to be creative. I have seen schools, sadly, who have very strictly scripted their teachers as to exactly what they're going to do, and that just won't work in this situation. Yeah, I mean, we've heard it from the parents on here, right? Everybody's in a totally different situation, and teachers are going to have to be able to adapt. And I close this thought with one last story that's kind of funny. I have, because you took me into my policy world. One of our policy directors was to have some things to me the other day, and he told me it was not time sensitive, but he said, "Hey, I'll have it to you by noon." Right? Calls me in the afternoon. "Hey, I am so sorry," and he has 4 kids, right? And this guy's genius and most productive guy I know, right? Like if he tells you he's going to have you something in 5 minutes, it's 4. And he calls me and he goes, "Byron, I'm so sorry." But he said, "My kids all had this stuff they were doing at the same time. And I thought it was the greatest statement ever." He goes, "It was all devices on deck for the kids," right? Like I laugh. I tell that story all the time because it's so funny that all devices on deck. Well, those teachers probably didn't know they did that to him, right? And his wife, and for God's sakes, his wife is a nurse. So, or not a nurse, she's a doctor. So she's at the hospital putting herself at risk. He's at home with 4 kids, still has a policy job. So I want the parents to know that I really do understand. I have empathy, right? Like I can't even imagine what it would be like to have 4 kids, but I
anytime, ever, right?
Yeah, right. We only have 1 because my wife would only allow 2 kids in the house, and you know who the other one is beside my son, right? And
Yeah.
Kevin, you know me well. That was a good choice on her part.
Well, she's a wise woman.
Yeah. So I think, but I would encourage everybody to get this out. And Kevin, to you, the encouragement is, how could we get this out wider to schools? I want to help with that now because I think people need to hear these stories. Not that I think nobody's intending to do anything bad. I think sometimes we just don't think about it, right? And then I think the other thing that you should do, Kevin, this is a marketing thing for you. I think you should make a whole bunch of sets of those hats, because I certainly would buy one so that I can go through my hats during the day and do that. So, but I think that's, I love, I live by metaphors, and I think it's such a great metaphor. We literally need to explicitly think about which hat am I going to put on right now. And I think that's so important.
Right now is that someone on my team is screenshotting this at this very moment. Garrett, I almost guarantee that. Okay, so I want to do 2 things before I go into thank yous. So first of all, before we get into thank yous, and I do a couple of other things, Katty, anything else you want to say? Katty put some great stuff together that we didn't go through all of it, and we're going to include a bunch of that and curate some of that into this resource tool that you can get by going to kevinigray.com/juggling that you see below. But is there anything else that you want to share at all, Katty, before we move into wrapping up?
Well, it will be pretty much adding to what we have already said. I would say, like, honestly, this is a day-by-day process. It is uncertainty out there. We do not know. We do not know when this is going to be over. So we need to take it day by day, knowing that we are all trying at all, with every hat, we are all trying. I let everybody know, like, speak up. You have to speak up, because at the end, I have one of the things that I wrote right here. One of the things that is working for me as an individual, not as a teacher or a parent or anything like that, it says, I understand it is worth to work hard to achieve any goal I put my mind into, as long as I don't sacrifice my sanity for it. I have to put that in my mind, and I have to keep it clear, like, yes, I'm going to do my best, but up to what extent, like, yes, I'm going to work hard, but up to what extent? Because at the end of the day, you know what I mean? It's not really worth it. Like, you are a parent, and at the end of the day, yes, I could be a teacher, I could be, a parent, I am a leader, but I'm an employee. But at the same time, I'm a person, and I have to honor that. I have to honor myself. And like you said, in order for me to perform well at any of the other jobs or works that I have, like, I have to take care of myself. So I would say to everybody, take care of yourself, make sure you're okay. If you're not okay, because it is okay not to be okay, speak up, share with someone, vent, and that person might have a good idea for you. I have my best friend We have those meetings. We have those meetings on Saturdays, and we need to check on each other, even if it's 30 minutes, even if you're going to talk about that restaurant that we used to go to. With our family, we have those Friday nights that now are our game nights, and everything stops at 7. Like, I remember we were about to meet, remember last week, and I told Bryon, yep, as long as it is before 7, setting those boundaries, because that's something that I recognize it is really important for me as a person right now. And, it benefits my family as well. They're worried. They're far away from me. They want to see me. They want to hear from me. So we came up with these game nights online, and that's helping everybody. So check on yourself, speak up, and, one day at a time.
So a couple more things. We didn't really talk about the employee hat. That's the realm that I live in. And so if you sign up for that link, at that link, we'll put some stuff in there. I will say this real quickly, that we have a resource site that includes a bunch of stuff that we call a dose of fun. And I'm going to type that in here real quick so we can get that up. But we've tried tonight to do a variety of things. Let me get this in here and try to get this quickly to you all. Let me just do it this way. Give me 1 second, everybody. My team knows that typing is not necessarily my top skill. Actually, not what I'm trying to do, something else. So I'm going to put this on here. This is a site where you can go to get a bunch of resources if you're a team member, if you're a leader. We got a tremendous amount of content here. This will probably live there, but I want to say more about that question about sharing this in just a second. So you can share. So you go to that site, KevinICanBray.com/COVID-19. It's a portal that we put together that came out on the 18th of March. I can't believe it's been almost a month ago now. A tremendous amount of resources that are being added to every day, including things for you, for your breaks, for your mental, for your team, for your family, etc. So you can do that. But people were asking about sharing this. You can absolutely share it. So wherever you're watching it, it's going to still live. And if you want to share it with somebody else, rather than saying, well, you got to go to LinkedIn, then you got to, no, don't do that. Just go to KevinICanBray.com/live. Some of you are watching us from there. But as soon as we're done, it'll be available on that page as a replay. But wherever you're watching, you can share the link where you are, of course. But KevinICanBray.com/live will get anybody there. So Byron said, share it with, I was thinking, share it with others that that are struggling. But share it with administrators, share it with teachers. And if it can create a dialogue and it can create a conversation, then that's what we're really wanting to do, right? So I want to do a couple of things. We created something, and I didn't know if I was going to release it. I'm still not sure I'm going to release it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of you for your input. If you're here live right now, we created a Facebook page, a Facebook group that would be for people to continue this conversation, to be support to each other, to be a community. I don't know what we would do with it exactly. We don't have a plan, and we don't even know if we're going to release it. In fact, I'm not putting the link up here, as you'll know. But here's what I'd like you to do. If you can type in right now, I would just love you to say, is that something? Just put, hey, I might be interested in that, and put a yes or a Y. And you're like, I'm not interested in that. Put a no. Just do that if you would, and give us some feedback. And we may still decide to do it later. And if we do, and if you sign up at Juggling, KevinICanBray.com/juggling, we'll let you know that. But if you just put in a yes, in fact, you just have to put in a Y. If that's something that would be interesting to you, we don't want to add to your overwhelm. We want to be helpful. And so if it would be useful to you, just type a Y in. That'd be awesome. And we'll be able to take a look at that before we're done. I want to thank my guests, my co-hosts. I want to thank Byron for letting me bounce an idea off him that became this. I want to thank Byron for inviting Katty to join us. I want to thank Katty for tremendous contributions. I want to thank my team members, Marissa and Marlene, who have been monitoring other channels and sending stuff to me throughout. I want to thank the members of my team who are in this situation themselves, who were a big part of me coming to this conclusion to try to do something, and for their input in regards to this. And I want to thank Erica Brown on our team, who created the images for the hats. I want to thank my wife and my daughter for making the hats happen. And Byron, I don't think Lori wants to make a bunch of these hats. This was not, it took a community for us to get these on the hats on Tuesday night. We'll just leave it at that. But I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you. Oh, I got to put this one up. I think that's her husband. Anyway, yep. So he ought to be the number one. Just saying. I want to thank all of you for being here, whether you just got here, whether you've been here a long time. And if you found this useful, I do hope you'll share it. And if you think of other ways that we can support you in wearing these hats, I won't promise to do something, but I'll promise to listen, and I'll promise to see what we can do to help. Because we started out by saying that we wanted to lift you up and support you, that we wanted to salute you, and that's where I want to end with all of that, and to thank you for being here, and thank you for what you're doing for your kids, and thank you for spending a little bit of time. Hopefully this was useful. And I'll close this the way I've been closing lots of things over the last month with this. Be well, be safe, be remarkable. Thank you, everybody. We're done.
Thank you.
God bless everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.